Medicine by Lu Xun, translated by Peter Rambo. 1. It was an early autumn morning. The moon had set, the sun had not yet risen, and only one small slither of blue sky could be seen. Except for a few night owls, everybody was asleep. An old man, Xuan, sat up suddenly, struck a match, lit an oil lamp, and the 2 rooms of the tea house filled with clear light. "Are you going out?" asked an old woman. From the small room came the sound of coughing. Xuan replied as he began fastening his buttons. He stretched out his hand. "Could I have it?" His wife, Hua, reached under her pillow. After fumbling around, she brought out a pouch of dollars and passed it to Xuan. He trembled as he took the money. He put it in his pocket and tapped it twice after. He lit a lantern, blew out the lamp, and headed into the inner room. There was the sound of rustling, followed by another cough. Xuan waited until it was silent. "Xiao, son," he said in a gentle voice. "You don't need to get up. The shop? Don't worry, your mother will take care of it." Xuan made sure his son was peacefully back asleep, went outside and headed onto the street. It was pitch black and everything looked vague. Nothing could be seen except a strip of pale grey road. The lantern light illuminated his feet as he put one in front of the other. Occasionally he came across some dogs, but none of them barked. It was much colder outside, but it was refreshing. He felt as though he'd been given eternal youth or some supernatural power. As he walked forward, his strides grew longer, and the further he went, the clearer the road appeared and the brighter the sky became. Xuan was concentrating on the road. Suddenly he stopped. He saw a crossroads clearly in the distance. He took a few steps back and hid under the cover of a closed storefront. As he waited, a cold feeling passed through him. "Hi, old man. Seems very pleased, doesn't he?" Xuan froze. As he watched, a few people passed by. One turned their head to look at him, but their appearance wasn't clear. Their eyes gave out a seizing, longing light, as though they were a starving person seeing food. Xuan looked down to his lantern. It had already gone out. He checked the pouch in his jacket. It was still there. Looking into the distance, he could see a few ghostly figures walking in 2s and 3s. He fixed his eyes on them and looked again, but could see nothing else strange about them. Soon after this, he saw a group of soldiers. As they walked, the white circles on the front and back of their uniforms became clearer. They passed in front of him, and he saw the red tram. The sound of marching rang out, and then instantly a large group of people were passing by. The 2s and 3s came together, walked towards the crossroads, and stood, forming a semicircle. Xuan looked towards them, but he could only see their backs. Their necks were outstretched like so many ducks being squeezed by invisible hands. It was quiet for a while. Then there came a soft sound, growing louder until a voice yelled out, shaking the air. The soldiers headed over to where Xuan was standing. As they crowded around him, they almost knocked him over. "Hey, come on then. Give us the money and I'll give you the goods." Someone dressed all in black came up to him. His eyes were like daggers. The glint made Xuan shrink back. The man thrust out a large hand before him. He was holding a piece of blood-soaked bread dripping onto the ground. Panicking, Xuan brought out the money. He trembled as he began to hand it over, but he couldn't bring himself to take the thing in front of him. "What are you afraid of? Why don't you take it?" The man shouted, irritated. Xuan was hesitating. The man in black grabbed his lantern and tore off the paper cover, using it to wrap the bloody bread. He thrust it towards Xuan and snatched away the money. He gave it a feel and turned to go. "Bloody old people," he said disdainfully, glancing at Xuan as he left. "Who is that medicine for?" Xuan seemed to hear someone ask, but he didn't reply. His mind was only on the package in his hands. He cradled it as though it were a vulnerable child. He could think about nothing else. This package was new life itself. He headed home to enjoy his new salvation. The sun had risen now, and before him was a great road leading home. Behind him, light fell on the broken sign hanging over the crossroads. "Entrance to the Ancient," it read. Only dimly lit, with the gold characters there inscribed. 2. When Xuan got home, the shop had been cleaned, and the rows of tabletops were glistening. There were no customers, only his son Xiao eating rice. Large beads of sweat were dripping down his forehead. His jacket was tight against his back, squeezing his shoulders into the shape of an arch. When Xuan saw how his son looked, a worried expression crossed his face. Hua hurried out from the kitchen, her eyes wide and lips trembling. "Did you get it?" she asked. "I got it." They went into the kitchen, and after talking for a while, Hua went to get some dried lotus petals and placed them on the table. Xuan opened the package and used the petals to rewrap the bread. After Xiao had finished eating, Hua called out anxiously, "Son, stay where you are. There's no need to come in here." As he stoked the fire, Xuan put the package and torn lantern into the stove. Black and red flames spluttered outwards and the shop was filled with a strange smell. "Smells good. What are you eating?" Wu, the hunchback asked as he came into the tea house. He was there every day. He was the first to come and the last to go. He sat down by a table in the corner facing the street. No one answered him. Porridge? He asked again. Again, no one replied. Xuan hurried over and gave him a cup of tea. Son, come in here, Hua called. Xiao took a seat on the stool placed in the middle of the kitchen. Hua brought him something small and black on a plate. Eat this, you'll feel better, she said. Xiao picked up the black object and looked it over, and gave him a strange feeling he couldn't describe, as though he were holding his own life in his hands. He opened it carefully. Underneath the burnt wrapping, a white vapor seeped out, dispersed, and revealed 2 pieces of steamed, bloodied bread. He ate it quickly, soon forgetting the taste. Afterward, nothing was left but an empty plate. Behind him, his mother stood on one side, his father on the other. They were both watching him, as though willing something vital to be put inside him and something terrible to be taken out. Xiao's heart began racing. Holding his chest, he began to cough again. Sleep for a while. You'll feel better, Hua said. Xiao listened to his mother and went back to his room to sleep. Hua waited until his breathing was quiet and steady, then gently covered him in a patched-up quilt. 3. The tea house was filled with customers. Xuan was rushing from table to table with a kettle, pouring their drinks with bags under his eyes. Xuan, what's wrong with you? You're sick? A white-bearded elderly customer asked. No, nothing's wrong. Nothing. I suppose I should have guessed that from your smile, the old customer said, correcting himself. Xuan's just busy. If his son, Wu said, but before he could finish, a fearsome-looking man burst in. He was dressed in an unbuttoned black shirt, held up by a black belt. A huge beard covered his face. As soon as he came in, he called out to Xuan. Has he taken it? I feel better, you're lucky. If it wasn't for your good fortune and I hadn't heard about it. Xuan, holding the kettle in one hand, put his other out in respect. He smiled, and all the other customers turned to listen. Hua, with bags under her eyes too, smiled as she brought over a cup and tea leaves. She added an olive as Xuan poured out the water. This cure, the fearsome-looking man shouted. It's not like anything else. Just think. Take it when it's hot and eat it right away. It's really something, Hua said gratefully. If it hadn't been for your help, Kang, I don't know what we would have done. A cure, taken just like that. Bread soaked in human blood. Even tuberculosis can be cured. On hearing tuberculosis, Hua's expression changed. Her fear began to show, but she forced a smile and made to leave. Kang didn't notice. He continued talking loudly, even as the sound of coughing came from Xiao's room. It's good luck your family found Kang, the old, white-bearded customer said. Naturally, Xiao's illness will be cured. There's no wonder Xuan's smiling all day. He then walked over to Kang and asked quietly. I heard that criminal they executed today was part of the Xiao family. Whose child was it? What happened? Whose? It was one of Grandma Xia's, of course. That little bastard. Kang looked around at everyone and saw he had their attention. As he became excited, the jowls in his face trembled. He started talking even louder. This guy didn't want to live, didn't even want to. I got nothing out of it. Even the leftover clothes were taken by the jailer. Xuan here got the best of it. Second was the grandfather. He got 25 silvers. Got it all, didn't have to spend a coin. Xiao came slowly out of his room. Both his hands were pressed against his chest and he couldn't stop coughing. He walked slowly to the stove, took some cold rice and a cup of hot water and began eating. Hua hurried over to him. Son, are you feeling a bit better? She asked gently. Are you hungry? Cured, Kang said, glancing at Xiao before turning back to the customers. That bastard's grandfather knew what was right. If he hadn't informed on him, we would have killed a lot of them and taken their property. But what did he get instead? Silver. That little shit Xiao really could have started something. He even tried to get the jailer to revolt with him. What, he tried that as well? A young customer behind him asked angrily. Yeah, he talked with him. These fucking criminals said society belonged to everyone. Is that something you hear a sane person say? He knew Xiao only had an aged mother at home, but he didn't know how poor he really was. He couldn't have squeezed anything out of him. He was already angry, and his kid was pushing him, so he hit him a couple of times. He's a good fighter, Wu said excitedly. I bet he got him good. That miserable little kid wasn't afraid. He just kept saying it was pitiful. What's pitiful about a creature like that? The old customer said. No, you don't understand, Kang said, smiling coldly. He was saying that he was pitiful. Suddenly a strange look came over everyone. All the conversation stopped. Xiao had finished eating. His whole body was covered in sweat. It was almost as though steam was coming from his head. He was pitiful. Xiao was obviously insane, the old customer said with sudden realization. Insane, the young customer agreed. Everyone in the tea house began talking and laughing again. Amidst the uproar, Xiao began coughing violently. Kang stepped in front of him, patted him on the shoulder. Cured, he said. Xiao, you don't need to stop coughing. You're cured. Insane, Wu said, nodding his head. 4. Xiguan was originally imperial land. It lies adjacent to the old city walls, and in the middle there is a large winding road. Although formed by pedestrians, it still maintains a natural outline. On the left side of the road, executed prisoners or those who died of hunger or disease are buried. And on the right side is a mass of unkept graves for the poor. Together, the two sides look like the rising stacks of rolls given to the rich on their birthdays. That year, tomb sweeping festival was especially cold. The poplar and willow trees were sprouting new buds only half the size of rice grains. It was just before dawn, and Hua was sat before a new grave on the right side of the road. She cried as she arranged 4 dishes of vegetables and 1 of rice. After she burned paper money for the dead, she sat as though waiting for someone. But what? She didn't know. A slight wind rose and brushed her short hair, much whiter now than last year. Another woman was coming down the road, her hair white also. She was dressed in ruined clothes and was holding a red, dilapidated basket with paper money dangling from it. As she walked, she would stop to rest every few paces. Suddenly, she saw Hua looking up at her, sitting on the grounds by the graveside. She hesitated, looking embarrassed. Collecting herself, she went over to a grave by the left side of the road and laid down her basket. That grave and Xiao's lay in a direct line, separated only by the road. Hua looked at the mother's plates of vegetables and rice, and watched as she burned her paper money, weeping. A son lies in that grave too, Hua thought to herself. The old woman paced up and down, gazing around. Suddenly, her hands and feet began to tremble, and she staggered backwards. Hua, seeing this, thought perhaps that the old woman's grief had driven her insane. She stood up and crossed the road. Grandmother, you don't need to grieve. Let's go back, Hua said in a soft voice. The woman nodded her head, but her eyes were still staring ahead blankly. Look, can you see what this is? She asked, very quietly. Hua looked in the direction she was pointing. Her eyes came across a grave in front of them. Grass had not yet grown over it. Some ugly, sandy soil still showed. Looking closer, she was surprised to see a red and white wreath of flowers had been placed upon the grave. Both women were aging and had failing eyesight, but when they saw the wreath it was completely clear. A few flowers arranged in a circle. The flowers were wilting, but they were very carefully put together. Hua looked around at her son's grave compared to the others, scattered with a few white and blue flowers. She felt empty. She didn't want to think about it anymore. The old woman took a few steps towards her and looked at the grave carefully. There's no roots. The flowers couldn't have planted themselves, she said, as though thinking aloud. Who comes here? Children don't play here. Relatives stopped coming a long time ago. What is this? She thought for a while and began to cry again. They all wronged you, she said loudly. You did not forget the pain they caused you. Is this something you did to let me know? She looked around, but she only saw a crow perched upon a leafless tree. I know, they persecuted you. It was pitiful, and their retribution will come. God knew that day you closed your eyes. If you're still here, listen to me. Make that crow fly upon your grave. Let me see it. The wind had already eased off. The drying grass lay stiff like strips of copper. A trembling sound began in the air, but gradually faded away. Everything was deathly silent. The 2 women stood on the yellowing grass, looking up at the crow. The crow stayed on the branch, its head retracted, standing still like iron. As time passed, more people came to visit the graves. Some old, some young. Hua, feeling like a burden had been lifted, wanted to go. Let's leave, she said, urging the old woman. The old woman sighed and began listlessly collecting her plays. Eventually she made to go. As though thinking aloud, she said again, What is this? After they had taken no more than 30 steps, they heard the crow behind them calling. Shocked, they hurried back. But they saw that the crow had spread its wings and was flying, like an arrow, into the sky.